Welcome to NightStoryHQ, where darkness whispers and forgotten tales resurface to haunt the present. Tonight, we invite you to descend into the chilling depths of a mystery buried by time, one that begins with an innocent discovery and ends in psychological torment. This is the full story of a man who stumbled upon a long-abandoned tomb and met a presence known only as the Gray Man. What happened next shattered his mind, and perhaps his soul. Now, let's begin. It was in the late autumn of 2016 when Nathan Mears, a 34-year-old freelance photographer from Savannah, Georgia, took a spontaneous road trip through the Appalachian Mountains. He was chasing the dying leaves, the way they bled gold and crimson across the rolling hills. But beyond his lens and landscape, Nathan was also chasing something else. Silence. He had recently separated from his wife, lost his father to cancer, and felt a creeping sense of detachment from everything he once knew. He needed the kind of stillness only nature could offer. 3 days into the journey, Nathan stopped in a sleepy town nestled between foggy ridges. Locals called it Gray Ridge Hollow, a name that struck him as oddly poetic. The town was barely marked on the map, with just a general store, a gas pump, and a diner run by a woman named Mrs. Delancey, who seemed to have stepped out of the 1950s. Over coffee and a slice of pecan pie, Nathan mentioned his love for old ruins and abandoned places. Mrs. Delancey gave him a sharp look, one that hovered between concern and curiosity. "There's a place up in the woods," she said slowly. "Old stone ruins. Folks don't go there anymore. Not since the mine collapsed." Nathan perked up. "A mine?" She nodded, glancing out the window as if the trees were listening. "Used to be a family crypt built into the side of the mountain, long before mining came to this region. The Renshaw family. Old money. Eccentric. The tomb got forgotten after the collapse, buried under rock and ash. But some say it ain't empty." Her words stirred something in him. The promise of hidden history, untouched decay. It was the perfect shot, the kind of eerie beauty he'd been craving. The next morning, against her warning, Nathan packed his gear and followed the vague directions she scribbled on a napkin. The air was cold and damp. The trees creaked as if groaning under the weight of forgotten years. After several hours of hiking, just as the sun began to slip behind the hills, he saw it. Half covered by moss and rubble was the arched mouth of a stone structure, its inscription so worn he could barely make out the word Renshaw. The entrance yawned like an open wound, the scent of damp earth and time wafting out to greet him. He stepped inside. The descent was steep and narrow. Nathan's flashlight flickered against the ancient walls, revealing faded carvings of angels and hourglasses. It was silent except for his own breath and the crunch of gravel beneath his boots. At the base of the steps, the passage opened into a domed chamber lined with stone coffins. Dust clung to everything like ash from a fire long extinguished. He raised his camera, snapping photo after photo. But then something caught his attention. A whisper. Faint. Almost apologetic. He froze. The whisper came again, closer this time. Not a word. Not a sentence. More like a sigh wrapped in sorrow. Nathan turned his flashlight toward the source and found nothing. Just another sealed tomb. But then, in the beam of his light, something moved. A tall, thin figure stood at the far end of the room, dressed in gray from head to toe. Its face, if it had one, was hidden beneath a veil of cobwebs and shadow. It didn't move like a living man, nor like a ghost. It simply was. Standing perfectly still, as if waiting. Nathan stumbled backward. The flashlight trembled in his grip. He tried to speak, but his throat had closed up. The figure remained, unblinking and unmoving. And then it stepped forward, just once. With that one step, the chamber changed. The air turned heavy. The walls seemed to lean in. Whispers filled the space, louder now, desperate. Not from the figure, but from the tombs themselves. "Go! Go! Go!" Nathan fled. He doesn't remember running back through the passage, only the sensation of fingers brushing the back of his neck as he scrambled into daylight. He didn't stop running until he reached his car. When he looked back at the trail, it was gone. Swallowed. He drove back to town in a daze, pale and shivering. He didn't speak to anyone, didn't check out of the motel, just packed and left. But the story doesn't end there. In the weeks that followed, Nathan changed. His friends said he barely spoke. He stopped sharing his photos. He slept in short, trembling bursts and often woke up screaming. He told one friend about the tomb, about the figure in gray, about how he'd see it sometimes, at the foot of his bed, in the mirror behind him, standing under a streetlight that flickered at night. The photos he took that day, all of them were gone. Not corrupted, not deleted, just gone, replaced by gray static. He started hearing whispers in recordings too, faint voices in his audio logs, phrases like "stay down" and "not ready." He became convinced the figure hadn't followed him home. It had never left him. And then the dreams began. In his dreams, he stood inside the tomb again, surrounded by shadows. But the figure was no longer standing still. It reached for him, offering something invisible, something cold and hollow. He'd wake up sobbing, unable to move, paralyzed by the sensation that part of him hadn't come back with him from the tomb. 2 months later, Nathan was found in his apartment, dehydrated, starved, and rambling incoherently about a gate of bone and a gray watcher. He was institutionalized. To this day, he remains under psychiatric care. He does not speak. He does not respond to his name. He simply stares at the corner of the room, murmuring one phrase over and over again. He waits where the dead still listen. Stories like Nathan's walk a terrifying line between the psychological and the supernatural. Did he truly encounter something otherworldly? Or did isolation, grief, and trauma lead his mind to fracture in the dark? The line is razor thin, but local lore supports the possibility of something more. The Renshaw family crypt is, in fact, mentioned in archived mining reports from the late 1800s. An accident did bury part of the mountain, and several early settlers told stories of a gray watcher seen in the woods, a man who stood at the edge of vision, silent, veiled, always watching. Throughout history, many cultures speak of gray men or gray watchers, figures that appear before spiritual transformation or madness. Some say they are protectors of forgotten dead. Others believe they are sentinels of another realm, waiting for the right soul to claim. Whether Nathan crossed into such a realm or simply into the darkest corners of his own psyche, one truth remains. Whatever he saw or believed he saw changed him forever. And perhaps that's the true horror. Thank you for joining us on this chilling descent into the forgotten tomb and the shadow of the gray man. What do you believe Nathan encountered? Was it a restless spirit, a guardian of the dead, or a manifestation of his unraveling mind? If you've ever had an experience that left you questioning reality, we invite you to share it in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next tale from the dark corners of our world. Until next time, stay curious, but tread carefully. Some doors, once opened, never close. This is Night Story HQ, where every shadow has a story.